Ranked number one in innovation 10 consecutive years, Arizona State University isn't just ahead of the curve. It's creating new paths to success. Learn from notable clinical and research faculty. Online, that's a degree better. Explore programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. You have tuned in ever so wisely, successfully here to the home for America's conservative, not bitter talk. I'm your host, the one and only Todd Huff, still trying to deal with the loss last night for my beloved Indiana Pacers, who put up a valiant effort, a valiant fight, but came up short last night, and not only that, in the process, may have lost. I don't know. I don't want to say this, but they may have lost Tyrese Halliburton even for next season with an Achilles injury. Oh, what could have been one of the greatest nights in the franchise's history may have turned into one of the worst nights in franchise history. So congratulations to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Very good basketball team. Indiana Pacers, though, certainly were competitive throughout. The last night was one of their worst performances, but again, forcing Game 7 to what many people considered, even though I'm not nearly to this point, what many people considered one of the best basketball teams in history. I mean, they won 68 games, and I'll give them credit, but I think that's a little bit of an exaggeration. You know, a lot of these teams today, and kudos to the Thunder for not doing this, but a lot of these teams in today's NBA, they'll put it on cruise control during the season. The theory is just get to the playoffs and anything can happen, right? Get yourself into the playoffs and you're set. So there's a lot of teams that coast through the regular season. In fact, if you watch the NBA, and I'm not necessarily a fan of the NBA as much as I am a fan of the Pacers, but if you watch NBA basketball and compare and contrast, and I get that it gets more intense in the playoffs and especially in the finals than it does in the regular season, but it's night and day difference. And I get there's 82 games and you can't keep up some of this intensity for that length of time, and there's injuries, and I don't know. It is what it is. It's not what it was in the 80s and 90s, but it's great to watch, and congratulations to the Thunder, and still proud, very proud of my Indiana Pacers, but I'm a little bit in mourning over that. I got to be honest with you. Wasn't very happy with how things turned out last night. You had some people step up. TJ McConnell, I got to tell you, stepped up and took over. He was the only player to score for us for a long period of time. Yes, it's us, by the way. Mathurin played okay. Toppin, I like Toppin a lot. Didn't show up really. Miles Turner was basically non-existent all series. Halliburton goes down. Siakam played okay. Nesmith was, again, I love Nesmith, but man, just out of control, fouled out of, three of those games, I think, including last night. He wants to win. He plays hard. Got to play a little bit more under control. We need a little bit more from these guys. Nembhard was fantastic all series. His defense, I love Andrew Nembhard. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody in there. But anyway, that's what happened. I'm in a little bit of mourning for the Pacers, but great series, and congratulations to Oklahoma City. I got to say this, too. We went to Game 6, and I was talking to some Thunder fans, and if I had to pick a team from the West that we would lose to, I think I would pick, not that I want to lose, but I like the team and I like the fans. Probably of all the cities that are represented by, have an NBA team, I would say Oklahoma City might be the closest thing, to Indianapolis. Anyway, congratulations. I'm a bit in mourning this morning. So, all right, a lot happened, as you know, over the weekend. We have United States striking nuclear facilities in Iran, pulling off a remarkable military feat. There's been a lot of conversation about this, claims that Trump has violated the Constitution. The Congress is the one who's supposed to declare war. I mean, it's as though people have no context of history. They don't understand the War Powers Act. This is rather a newer phenomenon. When I was younger, the people, you've always had people who were deceiving in the media. You've always had people that didn't really know what they were talking about, but not the level that we have today. Anybody with a cell phone and a TikTok account can go out there and tell you what should have happened in regards to the War Powers Act, and they can be greatly mistaken and wrong. They don't know that they're wrong. They don't care that they're wrong. They didn't even know such a thing existed 37 minutes ago, but here they are. I remember talking about these things, these very debates that are being had now. I remember these debates in college, talking about the balance between Congress having the constitutional power to declare war, the president having the power to be the commander-in-chief of the military. What does that mean exactly? When does something become a war? When can the president preemptively or defensively act in America's interest before having? There's some fuzzy area in there. I admit that, but it's pretty clear that Trump did followed exactly what should have been done here. So anyway, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about just what happened in general, why that's important. You may recall last week we talked a little bit about this as well. So that's where we're headed today. I appreciate you tuning in, my friends. Thank you for doing that. One of the biggest challenges for conservatives like us is finding ways to ensure our values align with everything we do, including how we invest our money. That's why I love what the team at 4-8 Financial is doing. They specialize in biblically responsible investing. That means they screen out companies that don't align with the Christian faith and our values, so that we're not funding things that go completely against what we believe in. Plus, they do all the heavy lifting for us, helping align our investments with our purpose and goals. Now, here's the best part, a practical step for you. They will help you find out if your current investments, what you have today, reflects your values, which again is a big deal. We're pushing in the same direction, right? We're pushing in one direction, I should say, to fight some of these leftist policies and beliefs and all of this. And so what if your investments are funding abortion? What if they're funding the trans agenda? There's lots of things that are absolutely not Christian that your investments may be funding, and there's ways to still invest and make money without all of that other nonsense. So visit 48financial.com, and those, the 4 and the 8 are the numbers, 48financial.com/Todd. That's 48financial.com/Todd. And you can basically determine if your investments are reflecting your values by accessing the tool there, 48financial.com/Todd, because our money, my friends, should work for our values. All right, so we know, Saturday night here, the United States pulled off a long-range strike in Iran. Now, we laid the groundwork last week, and there's debate about this as well. And I do not want any wars. In fact, I saw someone on social media asking the question. I'm talking to Trump supporters, she said. I'm not trying to be provocative here. I just want to understand why. I thought you voted for a guy because you didn't want any new wars, and now we're looking at potentially having a new war. I would pause, and I would say this. I would say a nuclear-powered Iran was a... Look, this could develop into a war. I'm not going to say that it can't, but I'm going to say that in a nuclear-powered Iran, an Iran with nuclear weapons, was probably a surer path to war than what just happened. Iran has made it clear. The Iranian government, by the way, this is a terrible, immoral, evil group of people running this country. In fact, I've got some stuff in the stack of stuff today where I'm going to go through and I'm going to share some of the things that happen in the Islamic Republic of Iran. By law, the way that country is run, since the mullahs and the Ayatollah Khomeini have been running the country since 1979. It's a new Ayatollah, well, not new. He's 86. Newer. There was an original Khomeini. This is Khamenei. Very closely pronounced names. But anyway, since they took over in 1979, they have been ruling the state through heavy-handed authoritarianism, Islamo-fascist. This is who they are. This is their attempt to implement Sharia law according to Islamic traditions, at least their interpretation of Islam, happening in the Iranian Republic, Islamic Republic of Iran. And so that doesn't, look, the fact that this regime is evil and wicked is really not, that's not enough for us to say we have to take them out. But which we didn't take them out. We took out a capability of theirs, which is another important fact and distinction here. So you can't have an evil regime. I'm talking, this is not just, this is evil in ways that's hard, I think, for the average person to understand. I mean, this is, they have fully embraced darkness and evil in that country, the way that they run it. And they have made it clear that they do not want a nation of Israel to exist. They have threatened for years to wipe the nation of Israel off the face of the planet. That's what they've promised. This, by the way, is one of the reasons why the radical left loves and defends the Islamic Republic of Iran, even though the Islamic Republic of Iran stands for virtually all sorts of things that are the opposite of what these radical leftists say that they want here, at least in this nation of America. So, you've got evil leaders who are hell-bent on destroying their adversaries. These are not just geopolitical foes. These are people, the Israelis are people who are religious enemies to the folks running the Iranian regime. This runs deep. This goes back millennia. They hate Israel, and they say that they are going to wipe them off the face of the planet. Now, here the United States is. We don't, they're not directly threatening us. Well, they do directly threaten us. Death to America, death to Israel. We are what are we? We're the great Satan. Israel's the little Satan, if you listen to the Iranian lunatics that run that nation. And they throw threats at us all the time. They've threatened to kill the president. I mean, this is all par for the course when you look at these lunatics running the Iranian regime. And so, the words that are being said, that's just a little bit of an indicator as to what we're dealing with. Now, you put the nuclear capabilities on the table. And as Trump has said, it's pretty clear that the Iranians, were days or weeks away from having nuclear weapons. And so now you have to ask yourself this question. If you have a nation that has caused havoc, listen, they've caused havoc in that part of the world for a long, long time. You know, you go back prior to 1979, and Iran was, listen, we had something to do with the Iranian Shah falling and the mullahs taking over there, the CIA and all that. But if you look at Iran prior to 1979, it was westernized in some to many ways. Now it is the exact opposite. Now, we don't necessarily want to control. I mean, I know that there are people who are, but we don't necessarily want to control and say every nation has to be westernized. You just can't be certain things. You can't be hell-bent on causing World War III. You can't be threatening a major ally of ours, and you can't be threatening to destabilize the entire world, or at least that region of the world, which would have ramifications elsewhere. I mean, this place is always a tinderbox. If you look at where many of the most recent wars have taken place, at least the ones that involve the United States of America, Afghanistan, Iraq, a lot of these, of course, are in this region. And Iran has been using for a long time these terrorist organizations, which are called proxy armies. They get these radical terrorist groups. They fund them. They give them weapons. They stay a half a step back and say, look, this isn't our army. But yet it really is, because they are doing the dirty work for the Iranian regime. Iran has enough plausible deniability to where they can't be directly implicated for some of these attacks that have been happening in the region. If you look at the people, when we were fighting these wars in Iraq, in Afghanistan, a lot of these roadside bombs that were killing and maiming U.S. military personnel, they were coming from the Islamic Republic of Iran. They were being placed by terrorist groups like Hezbollah. Hezbollah, of course, is front and center number one as far as a proxy army for the Iranian government. They have been inflicting terror, causing mayhem and havoc and death in the region for a long, long time. This is not a good group. This is as bad as it gets, and we cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. Why? Because all bets are off. If they have a nuclear weapon, we then have a different set of circumstances to factor into our decision. Because now, if they are acting provocatively towards Israel, the debate is going to be, all right, do we strike before they have the ability to fire the weapon? Are we going to go in and, maybe take out some of the weapons, but then they have another one? Is there going to be a dirty bomb? All this stuff has to be considered, right, when we're making these decisions. This is a destabilizing, just mayhem. Absolute bedlam, mayhem, pandemonium would ensue if Iran had a nuclear weapon. This is not the same as another nation state having nuclear weapons. So we certainly don't want proliferation of nuclear weapons all over the world from all these different countries. It's a much different thing for even a state like Russia to have nuclear weapons than someone like Iran. Iran is closer, it's more likely, or I should say more similar to the North Koreans having nuclear weapons. Same sort of thing, except I would say the North Koreans even issue more restraint than the Iranians potentially would. The level of hatred and desire within the Iranians to destroy Israel. And listen, this is from people who fuel terrorism, suicide bombers, and that sort of thing. These are people who are prepared to die for jihad. This is a different animal. They can't have a nuclear weapon. This should go without saying. Any sane person should understand this. This is not Iran trying to protect itself. This is Iran trying to be provocative. This is Iran trying to target its enemy, her enemy in the region. and cause, you want to talk about full-scale World War III, there you have it. You would, I can't even predict and tell you what that would look like. So, in order to prevent that scenario, President Trump did what I think was the right thing. In fact, if you listened to the show last week, you would have heard me say, I think that this has to be done. Of course, there are risks. We don't want to have another war. We can't be involved in, regime change. Although if regime change happens, that's not a bad thing. In fact, that is a good thing, although you never know what it's going to be replaced with. It's pretty clear that this current regime is about as bad as it can get. Certainly conceivable for someone else to come in should the mullahs and the Ayatollah lose control, but it's also conceivable for there to be, in fact, statistically, I would say it's probably more likely that it would be a better situation. Anyway, that's kind of the lay of the land, and it's with that in mind that Trump made the decision to hit 3 facilities to take out Iran's ability to create a nuclear weapon that they could use on Israel, or candidly, us or anyone else in that region as well. So that's what I want to talk about today. Friends, I want to remind you in the meantime that if you are looking, if you're in HR, if you're a marketing person, if you're a small business owner and you are needing products or anything with your logo message on it, Red, White, and Brand is here to help you do that. We can help you put your logo on almost anything. And yes, you would have heard me say we. This is actually division of the Todd Huff Show. This is something that we used to do long before we had the show. We've relaunched this division of the company here in recent, about a month or so ago. And we're here to help you put your logo on almost anything from apparel, shirts, hats, to trade show materials. I mean, they could be, big trade show booths or signs or pop-up banners, table coverings, all the way to promotional products, things that you would hand out at job fairs, things that you would give out at special events like fairs. You name it, my friends. Your logo on almost anything. Go to redwhiteandbrand.com, redwhiteandbrand.com. Promo code Todd will save you 10% on orders placed there online, and you'll get free shipping on online orders. Or you can contact us through the site. And candidly, there's so many things that we can get, it's sometimes easier for us just to do the work. So redwhiteandbrand.com. Promo code Todd will save you 10%. I have to take, my friends, our first time out of the program today. You're listening here to the home of conservative, not bitter talk. I am your host, the one and only, although very disappointed Pacer fan here in the studio today, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. The Iranian government absolutely does not need a nuclear weapon. No way, no how, under no circumstances. President Trump knows this. I would say, the vast majority of you know this. I would say the majority of the American people know this. This is not a good group. By the way, I'm distinguishing again, just to make it clear to those who may be sitting in the back who haven't been paying attention. I am differentiating between the Iranian government and the Iranian people. There's another story here. The Iranian people are trying to uprise and overthrow this government. Now, this is not something that the U.S. should be directly involved with. The United States should be focused on the prevention of this regime getting nuclear weapons, and that's what we did with the bombings. However, it would be a good thing, and I think it's totally acceptable to acknowledge it would be a good thing if the Iranian people replace this current regime. This regime is the problem. If it was a different regime who behaved differently, this would be a different conversation. It may still not be acceptable, I don't know, for the Iranians to have nuclear weapons, but it would be a much different scenario if they weren't promising and planning and hoping to annihilate their neighbors in the region, Israel, off the face of the planet. And so, Trump, in his preparations, in his thinking here, decided it was worthwhile to strike. Again, there's a balance here. We have to stop the Iranians from getting a nuclear weapon. We want to be very precise. We're not targeting anything but these facilities. And maybe some remaining air defenses so that we can come in unscathed, which we did come in unscathed. Did you see how we did this, by the way? I don't know if you've watched any of the reporting. If you listen to Hegseth, the defense secretary, talk about this, he had a press conference yesterday. Trump came out Saturday night and announced this in a very short address, which I'm going to play it here in just a moment. But Hegseth and General Kane of the Joint Chiefs laid out what happened. These stealth bombers took off from, I believe, Missouri. The United States did a bit of a head fake. They had some of those bombers were redirected across the Pacific. I believe they were headed towards Diego Garcia, I believe is what was happening. This was the head fake. This was the distraction. In fact, I remember seeing a headline Saturday that said that, bombers had been, had landed, I guess, in Diego Garcia, which is in the Indian Ocean, I guess. And the thinking was, and I remember seeing at the time, okay, we're going in. This is what we're staging to do. But that was a head fake. See, Trump, and I love this, by the way. This is happening as well. This is part of the story as well. Trump is really following Sun Tzu's The Art of War. If you've not read it, I think it's, I would say, mandatory reading for people who want to understand these geopolitical things, especially when it comes to war. Read Sun Tzu's The Art of War. It's not a super long book, but it's about deception when it comes to making war. You know, when the more you talk about war, the less you want it. The less you talk about war, I mean, it's explaining how to have a strategic and tactical advantage over your enemy. And so Trump was talking, I'm going to make the decision here in the next 2 weeks. I remember, in fact, I even think I commented on that, that it was interesting, and it made me think that maybe Trump was potentially setting up a longer timetable to make a quicker decision. So he says, I'll do it here in the next couple of weeks, making it seem like it wasn't imminent, when in the meantime, he had made a decision that was going to be carried out immediately. And so you have all these things happening. You got stealth bombers that take off from, I believe, Missouri. They fly all the way. In fact, it's a very precise route, because these stealth bombers, which I'm kind of an aviation nerd, and in fact, my plan when I was graduating high school, I decided I wanted to go to the United States Naval Academy, only to be medically disqualified. I got the nominations and all that stuff, went through the process, got the congressional approval. I stayed the night in Annapolis, but I was medically disqualified for sleepwalking, believe that or not. Anyway, if my plan at the time was, I really kind of had a desire to fly jets, F-18 Hornets off the deck of a carrier. Sounded pretty cool to me at 19 years old or whatever I was. Anyway, so I wasn't able to do that, but I've always had an interest. In military aircraft. I'm vaguely familiar with these stealth bombers. But I learned a lot even recently. I didn't know that this was, that this was how we would do that. I thought that we would reposition them and fly them. They have great range, especially when you factor in the abilities to refuel these things in flight. I mean, these things can travel forever. They can basically stay airborne, as long as we want them to, more or less, if there's refueling capabilities. And that's what happened. These things flew across the Atlantic Ocean. They came basically through the Mediterranean Sea. They've got all this technology that keeps them from being detected on radar. They can fly at high altitudes. A lot going on here. And they follow this very specific route, very, very tight route that kind of puts them between some radar detection. They come in over the Mediterranean, come through over Iran undetected, and there's some some suppressive fire that happens, but the next thing you know, they're dropping these 30,000-pound bunker-busting bombs that can penetrate hundreds of feet beneath the surface. They drop multiple of these bombs, continually expanding and growing the crater, the hole that they're creating, on their way down to these underground nuclear facilities until they basically reach the bottom, reach the facility underground under this mountain and destroy it. And there were 3 of these facilities. One of them was not that these cities. Fordo was the one that we're the most concerned about. Natanz is another, and then Isfahan was the 3rd location. And so we dropped the bombs. We're undetected. They didn't fire a single shot at us. Didn't seem that they even knew that these aircraft were there. They turn around, they fly back, they refuel, they land here, and there you go. That's what happened, which is remarkable. And as they say in this press, I don't know if Trump says it. I know Hegseth said it. I know actually General Kane said it. No military in the world can pull this off. Here's what Trump has to say here. It's coming in at the end of the CBS. The CBS was announcing this. Trump's walking to the podium, so you're going to hear CBS start to talk about Trump coming to the podium. You missed maybe the first line of this, but here's Trump making his announcement Saturday night.
Of course, that quickly changed.
We see the president now.
The U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken.
I'm up against the clock. Gotta take a break, my friends. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. Apologize. I thought I could get all that in at the end of last segment. I was wrong. I'm going to play a little bit that's left here this segment. Before I do that, though, my friends, are you tired of spending your hard-earned money at businesses that turn around and support leftist candidates and leftist causes? Well, that's why we created Freedom Marketplace. It is a free, searchable directory of businesses that share your conservative values, businesses that have vowed not to support leftist candidates or leftist causes. There's no login required. There's no strings attached. Just good patriotic businesses pushing in the same direction as you. Check it out today, freedommarketplace.net. Again, that's freedommarketplace.net. Liberty and business for all, my friends. I've backed this soundbite up just a wee bit here, just a tiny bit, just to get it queued back up, and I want to play what remains here. He's getting to the end of his remarks, and I just want to play the whole thing here on the program today. So here's Trump, pretty much where we left off last segment.
But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel. And God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, he walks away from the podium. Of course, some people not liking what he says there about thanking God and all of that, which, listen, I'm glad to hear that. This nation had a lot of that in its early days of its founding, even throughout its history. But he's made it clear. The choice is now back for Iran to make. If you want this to end, you need to negotiate the end of this war. This has gotten to the point to where the only way for this to be acceptable for the United States and the free world is for you not to have the ability whatsoever to create nuclear weapons. Now, there's others out there that say that this was not a totally destructive strike. I'm just sharing that with you. It appears to me that we did severely damage or possibly destroy it. Others are claiming that didn't happen, but others claim a lot of things out there. This is the war of information, right? Iran they have to jockey for position. They can't. They don't want to appear weak. They've got problems internally in their nation to deal with, and it is. Listen, that's a very real threat for the Iranians right now. The collapse of their government. In fact, I believe it's the son of the Shah, who of course, his dad was leading leading the nation of Iran prior to this. This is a long, long time ago. But he's out there making claims that, hey, this regime is on the verge of collapse, of falling, which would be, wonderful. And I think that that's quite possibly what's been happening here. But that's out there happening or being discussed as well. But Trump has drawn the line. Iran, you're not going to have nuclear weapons. That's unacceptable. You've been acting provocatively. You've been killing, he referenced it, you've been killing our troops, our soldiers for a long time in the Middle East with roadside bombs and so forth, through Hezbollah, through your other proxy armies and all of that. And so you've been a problem in this region, bringing death and destruction for a long time. It's unacceptable. There's no way you have a nuclear weapon. You better negotiate peace or we're going to strike. There's other targets that are left to strike. We didn't go after many of your targets. Trump's doing a little bit of trash talking here. Hey, we left a lot of your stuff standing that we could have wiped out. You didn't even know we were flying above your heads with the 30,000-pound bunker-busting bombs, the only nation in the world that can pull this sort of thing off. You guys were caught flat-footed. You couldn't do anything about it. The only reason you're not a heap of rubble right now, this is basically what Trump is saying, is because we showed restraint. Get it together. Pursue peace. This is not acceptable. And oh, by the way, if there is a regime change, maybe that's a good thing as well. We're not going to directly be involved in that, but that's something that we're not, that's not a bad thing either. He posted about that. Well, here's some of his posts on Truth Social. Monumental damage. This was posted 12 hours ago, so late last night. Monumental damage was done to all nuclear sites in Iran, as shown by satellite images. Obliteration is an accurate term. The white structure shown is deeply embedded into the rock, with even its roof well below ground level and completely shielded from flame. The biggest damage took place far below ground level. Bullseye is what Trump says. So you want an end to this, Iran? Then you better pursue peace, because this path that we're on is not sustainable. It's unacceptable, and we're not going to allow it. So there you go, my friends. Coming to the end of the first hour, SDG.